So you have a change of heart, wanna make a brand new start. You've been living on the edge with forever as a pledge. No more giving it up, turning me loose, setting us free. Baby, keeping it real, cause we got what takes for sure. There's no turning back anymore. Can you see it's all a game? Life goes on all the same. If at first you don't succeed, all you've got is all you need. If you believe, then stake your claim.
Hey, Rise and Thrivers. Welcome to another episode of Rise and Thrive Together. We are so excited to be with you here tonight on Monday, July 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you so much for joining us. And in case you are new to Rise and Thrive, or you need a reminder, we are the Rise and Thrive Together community, which is vibrant and we are committed out to educate and empower and equip you to have the results that you want through real talk and taking real actions. I'm super excited for tonight because we got our special guest. And this is our second week here in July, and we're out to kind of update you a little bit, maybe give you a little backstory about, just in case you missed last week. But before we get into that, I want to bring in my favorite person, Raquel Stewart, co-host, friend, mentor. What's up, sis? How are you?
Hey, Rise and Thrivers, how are you doing? So glad you're here. If you are new to Rise and Thrive, we want to welcome you. So thank you for taking time out of your day to join us, or your evening to join us here. I'm super excited about this topic of setbacks and providing strategies to help us with setbacks. And like we talked about last week, setbacks are a setup for a comeback, right? And you may use it as a different word, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's something that's attempting to set you back, to throw you off course. But the reality is it doesn't, right? You're going to end up where you belong anyway. But sometimes we have to go through this delay in order to grow us so that we can grow through the challenge or the setback that we're facing. Remember that from last week? And I may have said it differently, but it's a whole other week and it's the same thing. It's the same concept, right, sis?
Absolutely. You know, I loved how you said setbacks set you up for a setup that brings you for a comeback. And, old school, I'm like, like hearing that, I think it's LL Cool J or somebody like that. Don't give me a comeback, right? Like you. Sorry, guys. I'm just, if I'm wrong on who it is, but like I hear the song, I just don't have it in front of me. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So that alone, we know our words are very powerful. And the way Raquel said it, again, hits my soul, hits my mind, and brings back a memory that like brings a smile and gets me like empowered. I'm like ready. I'm like, let's have this conversation. And we'll set you up for the strategy tip of last week, which was pause and process. So if you're having that setback, right, it's an opportunity to take a pause and process the whole thing. And it gives you an opportunity like to say, hey, like what's not working here, right? Like what happens? What can I put in that maybe can make that difference to have it shift a different way and have the results that I want right now? And I got to tell you, sis, from last Monday till this Monday, that's been my conversation. That tip that you threw out there, like pause and process, it has been my mantra. It has been my mindset every day, throughout the whole entire day. Lots of stuff have happened. And I got to tell you, thank you. Thank you for that. Like that's the results, guys, that we have. It has made every single situation, and I can tell you story after story after story, it doesn't matter, so much easier. Like I stopped, I paused, I took a breath, and again, done this work for a long time, and I processed. And I've been processing out loud. I've been processing on a piece of paper. And then for all of you who know me, or if you get to know me right now, is I'm a big community person. So I reach out to the people that truly keep me empowered and don't let me get stuck in that setback, stuck in that story that's going to just have my wheels spinning and not have me move forward to have the results that I want. So I want to thank you for that. It was so awesome. Loved it.
That's fantastic. And last week, I just want to share with the audience, talk about setback. Reg and I were trying all these different platforms. I'm trying to get the right word, the correct wording. We were trying all these different platforms because, as you know, we've been having, or I've been having challenges with freezing and pausing or whatever. And we had to really truly pause and process what was going on. And we laughed about it, and we were able to figure out a solution when we paused and processed, because it would have been so easy to just get frustrated and just like, ugh, kind of growl at stuff. But it really works, the pause and process, because when we're in survival mode, we can't really think. So it makes a difference.
Thank you for sharing that again. Yeah, I got to tell you, it's great when you stay committed and consistent with someone, because we had a good time. We really did. We're not going to lie. This is real talk. Rock was like, stop blaming me. I am tired of being blamed on. But laughing like that, right? Because she knows we're not blaming nothing. And there's just something that isn't working. And we've processed everything and tried every action. We didn't try everything. And inside of that conversation, here we are today, clear, having fun, looking good. So it works, guys. It truly, truly works. And I definitely will say, when you have somebody who truly has the same values and the beliefs and is committed to having those results that, we both are committed to have you guys have in your life. Are we ready though for our guests?
Yes, please do the intro.
All right. I am super stoked, guys. I love this woman with my heart and soul. This is our topic: turning setbacks into setups. Sometimes the detour is the real route to success. And this is exactly who is the perfect guest for this second week, Elisa Lynch. I met Elisa through an extraordinary networking group, and she is a woman who is of resilience, who has reclaimed her health after a life-changing accident. I want her to share that story with her, but let her share that story. But she had a near fatal accident that shattered her body and her perception of what it means to heal. And this story of her unwavering beliefs in the body's ability to recover, a journey of faith, the power of biohacking technologies, super excited to hear about that, and how a holistic approach to wellness helped her achieve a remarkable transformation. She has and is an incredible speaker. I'm now honored and blessed to say an incredible friend. So let's bring on Elisa Lynch. Come on out, Elisa. Here she comes. Hello, Elisa.
Hello. Hi, Raquel and Regina. Thank you so much for having me today on your show.
Welcome. Oh, welcome to Rise and Thrive Together.
I love the name, by the way. It's perfect.
Oh,
thank you.
Because you have to rise in order to thrive. So it's a beautiful, beautiful show you guys have. And I love what you guys are up to.
I am so excited. I couldn't wait to when Raquel and I got together and we plan out the year, when we planned this topic of July of setbacks into setups, right? And really that is the detour to success. Oh my goodness. We've been trying to reach out to you, right? We've tried, had a couple of setbacks in getting us finally to meet. But it was divine timing, that perfect timing, right? That success of right now. There's the only reason now. You could have been on last month, right? You could have been on the month before. It's been those few months. But that setback had us completely for now. And didn't want to tell about your near fatal accident, because I want you to share that story and really kind of share with our audience everything, that little bit, read a little bit of that bio of yours, but share your story and let people know like that accident and where that is for now for you, that setback that has you totally set up for success and your purpose.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So to get started, 13 years ago, October 13, 2011, it was a time in my life where I was going through some adversity. I just lost my job. And I was thinking, oh, I want to go out on the boat today to kind of forget about the world. And I kept my daughter home for a half day school. So I thought, let me go get some salt life because I always felt amazing on the water. The ocean was my favorite thing, and so was boating. And I was a beach girl my whole life. So I worked really hard to be able to do those things for my family. And we decided to go on the boat. It was a Thursday afternoon. And about 45 minutes into the trip, we decided to go out in the ocean and come back around the inlet. And there was a boat that came by us. It was a Coast Guard boat. And there was a big wave that came through. And we went over the wave, no problem. So we kind of started going a little bit faster in the boat because it was flat that day. And then we went too fast. And there was a wave that I saw that was going to hit the boat. And I had grabbed my daughter just before that happened. She was 9 years old at the time. And I wasn't able to hold on and embrace for what the impact I was going to take on in the front of the boat. So I was had a violent fall, up and down fall, and I was thrown all over the boat. And when it was over, I didn't know where my legs were. I had injured myself so severely that I basically fractured my back. And I actually was injured head to toe. I didn't know it at the time, but it was a very, very severe fall that even affected my brain. So the injuries were so severe, and I was in the middle of the ocean, and I remember them laying me down, and every time I move, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it to shore or not to get help. And I remember looking at the sun, and the sun singing Kenny Chesney's song, Believe It or Not, about the sun. It saved my life in that moment. So it was beautiful that I was able to look at the source of sun and know it was keeping me alive. So when I got to the shore, they were waiting for me. Luckily, I got there okay. And they airlifted me to the hospital. And they came in and gave me the news that what had happened was so severe, they didn't know if I was going to live through surgery.
Wow.
So it was very, very frightening. They told me I had fractured my back, and they didn't know what was going to happen to me, if I'd ever walk again or I would ever recover. So I went and I opted for the surgery, not knowing if I had any other options because I thought my life was on the line. And that's what I did. So when I woke up from surgery, luckily I woke up and they were able to fuse my back and take out all the bone fragments in my spinal cord. And I knew I was in for a very long recovery. I was in the most unimaginable pain you can imagine with the injury. And I didn't know how I was going to recover. I couldn't even stand. I couldn't do anything. And I couldn't get on a toilet. I couldn't get out of the bed. It was really, it was catastrophic at the time. About 2 weeks from having the accident, I was finally alone one night, and God gave me a message that I'd be healed one day, not to listen to the doctors. I would never walk again. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I just knew that there was more hope if I had a faith journey. So that was the container. It was all that I had in that time was my faith. And I knew I had to believe that I could get better and God would open doors or lead me on a journey to healing myself. So that is where that message really changed everything, because for the first few years I went through traditional medicine. I went to Miami Paralysis Center. I did rehab. I did everything that the doctor said to do. And I was in bed crying in pain, and I had no quality of life, and I didn't have any hope. And then one day I decided to go on a different path and walked into holistic healing. So the first part, I made a complete different life change. I trusted my intuition. And I knew that I was surviving and I wasn't living. And the environment that I was in wasn't making me well, it was making me sick. So I had to change and leave everything behind. And the way that I was conditioned to believe that what the doctors say is law, I had to just trust myself. And I went on a whole different path of healing. And this has been 9 years later, and I'm walking with crutches now. So there, from that particular time, as you can see, catastrophic event, catastrophic. No one can imagine. It's unimaginable, actually, what I've been through, injuring my nervous system and trying to regain ability to walk. And it wasn't just walking. It was, the body is such a beautiful, magnificent vessel. And I had to learn about my body. I had to learn about my soul. I had to learn about my mind. So it really was a full healing. I had to tap into the spiritual. And I kept having miracle after miracle after miracle. So I know how amazingly blessed that I am. That I followed the path. I followed the path.
Yeah.
And it was,
praise God. That's nothing but God. So what a blessing. You are truly blessed to have gone through that. And you're here to tell your story and empower, encourage, and support others who may not necessarily be going through the same thing as you, but they're still going through a challenge. So absolutely, what a blessing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Now, a couple of things jumped out at me. I love the fact that you said you realized you were just surviving and not living. That is so powerful. And that triggered you to change. And you said you started living a more holistic life. Now, what does that mean? What does that entail?
Well, so what that entailed was basically trusting my intuition. And I mean, I actually got a separation from my husband, and I went and got an apartment. And I did, because I knew that I had this feeling inside of me that I could do it and I was going to get better. And it was just a really rough time. And, a lot of it too is what the doctors say. People, you form beliefs thinking that the doctor's words are law, right? Because that's what we're kind of taught to believe. And, it was difficult, because when you're told you're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life, people tend to believe that. And like, there's no hope, right? But if I was on my own, I could make different choices, was, I think, really the catalyst that made me realize that I have to do this on my own without any limitations. Because if I had any limitations or any money conversations or I just had to follow my gut on what was going to heal me. So that was sort of where I realized I had to just kind of be able to do my own thing and listen to what my soul was leading me to.
That is brave. I mean, I'm definitely saying that I can feel many people out there that are going through, and especially as someone who is a community person, I know you are, Elisa, like, right? You heard that message from God and you took it in for you and took that in. And I met you during a time where I got to witness the first time you were on crutches and took your first few steps across the way, and you surrounded yourself with people who were listening to you, right? Not what people were telling you to do, but people were listening to you because you knew, and you were still raising a daughter at that time, 9 years old, right? So that That's all of these setbacks, right? All of these setbacks. And Elisa like took her setback and left her husband, right? She saw that that was the best for herself, you know, the best interest for
Yeah, and I
herself.
mean,
Yeah.
lots of love for him too. Like, it really, it was a personal thing because, you know, it was my living situation. We had a 2-story house, and at the time, it was very difficult for me being downstairs and not having my own space. And after a few years of that, I was basically feeling like I was disabled, and I knew I wasn't, if that makes sense. Like, I realized that I just needed to go on with life. And if people were going to come with me, they were. And if they weren't, they weren't, kind of thing. So the intention of getting my own place was for me to have my freedom back and to live like, with my own bedroom and a closet and about like, the environment I had was like when I came home from the hospital, and after a few years of it, it just wasn't serving me anymore. So that was when I realized that I had to do something, or else I didn't really want to be here anymore. I'm not going to lie. The suicidal thoughts were really creeping in for like 6 months prior. And the only thing I knew I could do was change my environment. And that would hopefully allow me the freedom to figure out what was going to be my support me in getting better. And I was very lucky because about 6 months into it, someone had told me about a course called Gratitude. And I started, it's not probably no coincidence, right? As soon as I got myself open, God found a channel for me to really tap in and learn about the spiritual essence of myself and, how I was showing up in the world and really taking on transformation to elevate my consciousness so I could become more aware of how I could heal myself. And through that journey, I met amazing healers that propelled me on the course I am today. I also found my purpose through that process and helping people with disabilities get on the beach and all the things that I was up to. And I started really living again because I could help others. I could work on myself. And as I was healing my inside, my physical body was healing as well. So it's all interconnected. And that was what was so beautiful, is I had so much to learn and I loved it all, which was also a plus. I loved learning about the body, and I was able to really learn about energy and different healing methods from being an open vessel and knowing that all of this was coming from the divine or my higher self. So that's what was such a blessing for me, is to really tap into that intuition we all have.
Wow, that's
I'm
so
very
amazing.
deep, aren't I? I'm very deep.
No, you said
I go right in though, but I mean that's my superpower. I was always suppressing it.
You said a lot, and just some things I want to pull out that helped you to get to where you are today, and only for today, because as you continue on the journey, you're going to change and grow even more. And one of the things you said was you didn't have any limitations. So you shed the limitations. And then you mentioned letting go of things that are not serving you. When you release limitations, when you are open and let go of things that are not serving you, that's brave in and of itself, taking that step to let go of what's comfortable and familiar. You open yourself up now to receive other things because you've cleared the way for other things to come, other things or people to come into your life. And that takes incredible courage to step away from what's comfortable and what you're familiar with, like a marriage, and know that you are worth so much more than the way you were just surviving, and you wanted to live. And the only way to do that was to change your environment. And sometimes that's a big thing, and that's all it takes, is for people to change their environment, because then you can open yourself up. You can think differently when your space is different. So I absolutely applaud you for taking such an incredible step and learning to let go and let God. We're hearing that from you. We
Yes.
hear people
Yeah.
say it, but my God, you really did let go
Yeah, I
and
have
let
to
God
do the
lead.
work.
So thank you
Yep.
so much for that. You said that you have to do
Do
the
the
work
work.
too, right?
Yeah.
I didn't miss that. Even though we were talking simultaneously, I did not miss that. That is so key. And people forget that part. They just let go and let God and they start chilling. And that's
No, it
no.
was a lot of, it was really deep as far as childhood wounds and, you know, connecting with my inner child again and really changing forgiveness. So it's just a lot of work, a lot of inner work, and whatever came up to be healed, I had to really sit with it and feel my feelings and surrender to the higher power, and really get in touch with my inner essence, my masculine and my feminine energy, and how I needed to heal all of those things to become whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that journey, that's where so much before, we're kind of doing a little behind the scenes thing that we usually save. But before we got on, Elisa's journey has gotten her, like, she's walking with crutches. She still has a journey way to go because she has so much possibility and so many goals and so many visions to manifest. But Elisa, what I loved in your bio, so we're going to fast forward, is here you are. You are a speaker, an international speaker. She's on stages. You've got some great things coming up. I do want to acknowledge her for something. I'm not sure, there's so much we can spend time with her. Listen, we go to the beach. Elisa and I live near each other. Sis, I don't know about you in Jersey. But when I first came to Florida, there were these blue mats, like when you first got to the beach. And I was so happy that, like, when you first walk onto the beach and it's really hot, you're like, ow, 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 trying to get to where you need to get to. But
Mm-hmm.
where I live, there are these beautiful blue mats, and they're all over Florida. I haven't seen them anywhere else yet, but because here it was, it took me all the way halfway to the beach so that I can then just quickly put my stuff down. And I just was like, this is awesome. I was like, just so happy. Fast forward a few years later, I meet Elisa. And Elisa, why don't you share that? Because your setback set up for not just success for yourself and the difference you are making with others by sharing your story. And you've got a book coming out, but like the impact of our community and our state of Florida. Why don't you share what that is?
Yeah. So when I was in the gratitude training, I was awarded the humanitarian award because I was going to all the different municipalities to talk with them and to try to get more access on the beach because the wheelchair and the sand don't roll together. And the sand is so hot that for me to crawl anywhere, I would literally burn myself with third-degree burns. I have burned myself before. So I went to a lot of the different cities and counties, and I was able to get quite a lot of mats. They would put them down or get better beach wheelchairs, which is amazing. But I ran into issues where they wouldn't maintain the mat sometimes. So people would get hurt. So that was a little bit discouraging because in a perfect world, the cities would maintain the mats and sweep them off or keep them safe, right? But unfortunately, not all of the mats stayed down that I did. I think there was about 8 that were down at one point, and now there's still some, but I'd like to do it even more and donate more mats and have the cities require that they maintain them, right? If you donate something, then there could be a procedure on how to keep them down and safe.
Right.
So I loved advocating. It was one of the highlights of what I was doing. I just wish they would have maintained them better. And, because it was really heartbreaking to see when people were getting hurt and then anyway, so that was a challenge and that was a setback. So in this case, we're learning how to do it smarter and better.
So and starting with opening up your mouth right here. So I'm 100% right with you. I have been sharing this with people in my life who never even noticed. And when they did, they didn't know why. So here we go. Project number 2 for Elisa, right?
Yeah, it's donating,
Let's make these mats
donating.
that are there and keep them clean. Let's get more mats for people, because it's not just about, people with disabilities. It's really for everyone. But yes, let's have people with, disabilities be able to access all the things. Let's not take for granted that what I have and Raquel has. Everybody is deserving. Everybody. So
Yes,
you're
everybody
interested,
deserves access.
yeah.
And like
Let's
I said, they're very open to doing it. It's just the maintenance part. I've got to figure out how to make it really successful to where no one gets hurt, right? Because if someone's going to get hurt, that doesn't help serve anyone. So
So I'm going to put it out there.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to put it out there by saying it doesn't have to be you. It's about community. We are Rise and Thrive together. So reach out to Elisa, reach out to myself. Let's get a community together and let's make an impact for at least minimum the state of Florida and see what we can do further. Sis, I mean, we can spend all day with Elisa, right? I mean, she's just an incredible person. What are a couple of things you want to ask her as we're getting ready to wrap up the show? We didn't even get
So
into the
I heard
biohacking.
about a book. I want to know about this book. What's up with the book?
So the book that I'm writing is about my journey of becoming unparalyzed. It's a spiritual story. It starts from my childhood and it brings you through my life and how I overcame a lot of the different traumas and how I really focused on my intuition and my walk with God into finding the health that was the health possibilities that I've been able to embody for myself.
Wow.
So it's going to take you on a journey, and the beach mats are on there. It was part of my purpose. Connecting to purpose was really key for me because once I stepped into service, life felt totally different. And I got even closer to God because, God was telling me, help, go out there and help others because there's not really a better gig in town than helping someone else.
Right.
And I really believe that. Serving God's
Wow.
kingdom. I mean, I think that's what we're all here for, is to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. That is absolutely incredible. There's like this huge fly. I love stuff that's live. I'm like, he wants to get on the show too. Get out of here.
Trying to give you a little buzz. There is, so that book is, you're in the process of writing. Yes. Do we have a goal of when that's going to be coming out?
Yeah, the draft is done. It should be out hopefully by the Global Vision Conference. That's what I'm working towards, to have it ready to go for the Global Vision Conference in November.
So November 2025, guys, if you want to know about Global Vision Conference, reach out to Elisa and I. We can give you information. Now, weren't you in, though, another book? There's a book with other people that have
I was going to be in a book about adaptive sports, and I'm a paddle boarder. I do a lot of adaptable different water activities, and unfortunately, that book is now on the shelf. It didn't come to light, but there will be some more books coming. I would like to do a collaboration book of some women that also are into biohacking that totally transform their health. So there's about 6 people I know right now that have these incredible miracle stories. So I'd like to do a collaboration book of hope so that anyone that has any injuries or any like brain injuries or strokes or, really severe health challenges, that they know that there still is healing possible. And there's no better way to get that message out than have more than one story, right?
Right. So in the last couple of minutes, Elisa, you've mentioned biohacking a couple of times. What is that? Can you tell our audience what that is?
So what biohacking is basically when I became one with my body. I had to do a lot of spiritual work with my soul and my physical body to become one. It's called body consciousness. So once my body and I became one, I needed to go back to the basics, because when you have such a severe trauma, your nervous system has to be reset. you have to create a new body because your brain had kept a snapshot of what happens. So going back to the basic elements like ozone therapy really gave me that boost of oxygen throughout my system, and my blood started to change. So biohacking is going in and going back to your original biology through the basic elements, basically, and giving your body what it needs. The working on the cells, working on the mitochondria, working on the blood, the circulation. So all of those things is what biohacking is about.
Sweet.
Awesome. Thank you
You
so
go
much
back
for
to the
that.
basics. Yeah. You go back to the
Every now and
basics.
again, yes, we do have to, right?
Yeah. And if you enter your nervous system, it does require a real oomph of something to get the body to change, because the body always wants to protect you as a protection. And sometimes you've got to rewrite that script, but you and your body have to really be connected, and you have to have that love with yourself in order for that trust for that to occur. If you have fear or if you're afraid, your body is going to sense that.
Yep.
So it's really becoming one with your body. The more and more I became one with my body and self-love and doing all the other work, really enabled more possibilities for my health, and my body would receive them.
Amazing.
So
And
that's,
guys,
yeah.
I have her website up there. Elisa's website is amazing. It's
Mhm.
simple. It's
Yeah.
elisalynch.net. And she offers consultations to have more conversations about this. I want to have you, Elisa, before we say goodbye, is what is one, like, I know you've been talking a lot about self-love and becoming one with the body. And what is something you want to leave the audience with? Something that Elisa can take, just take a moment, pause, right? Kind of really process everything you've shared, and some type of strategy, tip, we're not a quick self-fix, but something you want to leave with them that can have somebody, feel like they're empowered, they're equipped to take this on.
Well, I believe what I would say is the most powerful tool is the gift of surrender. Surrender is the superpower. And through surrender, you can find grace. And grace is the most beautiful feeling in the world, because, God loves us so much, and the Holy Spirit, and trusting that everything's always for your highest good, and enjoying and loving your journey, and really tapping in and giving it to God.
All right.
Wow. That's
powerful,
absolutely incredible.
right?
So I would say surrender.
Surrender.
Just surrender.
Wow.
But find that grace, right? It's a superpower, because when you find it and you feel it, to me, that's been the most powerful feeling in the world, is grace. I think it's more powerful than even, I know it's part of love, but it's just a magical feeling.
But you know why grace is such a magical feeling? Because grace means unmerited favor. There's nothing you've done to earn it or to get it. It's freely given. And that's why it has that real magical feeling, because it's just authentically given to all of us by God.
Mm-hmm.
So that
And
is so
agape
incredible.
love. Yeah. And agape love, right? That unconditional love
Yep.
Yeah.
that we have through grace is just beautiful. And I got baptized in the fall, and it was
Very
probably the
nice.
happiest days of my life. I was so ready, and I really fully surrendered, and it was beautiful. And I
Thank
felt
you.
complete. It was really like I was ready. So
Well, congratulations to
thank
you,
you. Thank
Elisa.
you.
This was such a great conversation. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us on Rise and Thrive Together, and for being brave and letting go and not just surviving, but living and just opening yourself up to what's possible. We absolutely appreciate your amazing, amazing story. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And please feel free to reach out to her if you want to learn more about biohacking, if you want to learn more about what it means to just surrender and let go, because some of us may not fully grasp it. But reach out to her. Everything starts with a conversation. But what I want you guys to know, more importantly, is she did not do this alone. You might have heard her say a couple of times, and I had to, and I had to, but God was always with her. She was never by herself. And let this be a lesson to you, all of us, that we together can rise and thrive. Till next time.